In the swirling dust of the mortal world, there are noble practitioners who spend their entire lives cultivating virtue in absolute stillness, effortlessly blending into the vast crowd without a single trace of ego. They possess neither worldly wealth nor transient power, and their names never stain the pages of newspapers or the fleeting feeds of social media. If you happened to cross paths with them on the chaotic streets of life, you might never remember their faces. Yet, when sentient beings encounter the heavy winds of adversity and the ripening of bitter karma, these very souls become the peaceful harbors to which others instinctively turn for refuge. The world reveres them not for what they transiently own, but for the profound way they choose to abide in mindful awareness through each ordinary day. Most people naturally chase after the illusion of visible success, mistaking material gains for the ultimate source of happiness. A grander mansion, a prestigious career, a swelling income, or the fleeting praises of society all seem like reasonable attachments to the unawakened mind. To desire a better life in this realm is a common worldly condition. However, the tragedy of ignorance begins when these ceaseless pursuits slowly suffocate the true nature, leaving no room for the pristine flowers of kindness, honesty, and compassion to blossom. Secular achievements may dazzle the eyes of the crowd for a brief moment, but the pure character and spiritual merit hidden behind them are what truly continue to shepherd and uplift others long after the applause of the world has faded into silence. Deep within a small village cradled by ancient mountains lived an elderly woodcutter named Lamb. Every morning, long before the sun broke through the veil of dawn, he would sharpen his weathered axe, place a simple bundle of food into his worn cloth bag, and quietly vanish into the forest, treating his daily labor as a form of silent meditation. By sunset, he would return, carrying a heavy stack of firewood. Though the work was physically exhausting and the meager income barely sustained his family's daily needs, Lamb never uttered a single word of complaint. He often taught, allowed the mind to remain unshakable and sleep peacefully each night, free from the ghosts of anxiety. One winter afternoon, as he made his way back along a treacherous trail buried in heavy snow, Lamb heard a faint, desperate cry carried by the howling wind. Following the sound of suffering, he discovered an elderly woman sitting helpless beneath a frozen pine tree, shivering uncontrollably on the verge of death. She had attempted to cross the mountain pass before the storm, but caught in the web of impermanence, she lost her way as the blizzard blinded the world. Her hands were numb, and her lips could barely form a word. Without a single moment of hesitation or self-preservation, Lamb stripped off his own thick coat and wrapped it tenderly around her freezing shoulders. He then guided her slow, agonizing steps toward a small, broken shelter that local woodcutters used to escape unexpected storms. Inside the shelter, he gathered dry branches, kindled a warm fire, boiled water, and freely shared the simple meal he had packed for himself, practicing the pure joy of giving without conditions. Throughout that freezing, perilous night, he remained awake and vigilant, mindfully feeding the flames whenever they threatened to die out, ensuring the stranger stayed warm and safe. The next morning, when the karmic clouds finally cleared and the weather turned bright, Lamb escorted her safely back to the nearest village. Overwhelmed with profound gratitude, the woman repeatedly tried to offer him a pouch of gold to repay her debt of survival. Lamb politely and gently declined every attempt. Smiling with the warmth of a bodhisattva, he explained that if someone from his own family were ever lost in such terrible weather, he would simply hope another compassionate stranger would do exactly the same. Upon returning to his modest home, Lamb let the incident fade like mist over the mountains, never mentioning his deed to anyone. To him, saving a life was merely acting in accordance with the law of cause and effect, as natural as a tree bearing fruit. Days passed, then months, and life returned to its familiar, quiet rhythm. Lamb continued cutting wood, repairing collapsing fences for elderly neighbors, helping farmers gather their crops before heavy rains ruined their livelihood, and quietly fixing whatever was broken around the village. None of these actions were calculated to earn praise or build a reputation. In fact, many villagers hardly noticed his presence because Lamb never spoke of his own generosity, practicing the virtue of giving while completely emptying himself of the concept of the giver. One afternoon, a curious neighbor asked why he always seemed so willing to exhaust his own body to help everyone else, even though his own life was far from easy. Lamb smiled, and his answer carried the profound weight of Zen wisdom. When a person only calculates what they will gain from every action, the mind becomes a heavy prison. Sometimes, helping another being cross a river of suffering is already the ultimate reward. The neighbor remained silent, trapped in doubt, uncertain whether such a selfless attitude was practical in a competitive world where everyone fought for more. Not far away, however, lived Ho, the wealthiest merchant in the region, whose life stood as a stark contrast. His massive warehouses were bursting with timber, grain, and expensive silk, achieved through years of ruthless ambition. But he had become a man who measured every human relationship solely in terms of profit. Whenever someone requested Ho's aid, his mind never asked whether they truly needed it. Instead, he calculated what benefit or interest he would receive in return. Consequently, the people feared and respected his immense wealth, but no one ever trusted him with their genuine sorrows. One spring, weeks of relentless, unceasing torrential rain caused the river beside the village to violently overflow. The only wooden bridge connecting the isolated community to the main trading road collapsed during the night, cutting off all lifelines. The villagers gathered in a circle to discuss rebuilding it. Some offered lumber, others volunteered their physical labor, and a few contributed their hard-earned savings. When they approached Ho for support, he coldly declined, stating that since the bridge belonged to everyone, he would not pay for what others used, left without a choice. The villagers began rebuilding the bridge with their own hands. Although already advanced in age and feeling the decay of his physical form, Lamb carried heavy logs from the deep forest every single day. His shoulders became severely bruised beneath the crushing weight, yet his mind remained unshakable. Watching the elderly man labor with such joyful dedication inspired the younger villagers to conquer their own laziness. Slowly, through collective effort, the bridge took shape once more. Weeks later, traveling merchants returned to purchase the village crops, and thanks to the new bridge, commerce flourished, earning even Ho's trading company considerable fortunes. Only then did a quiet realization strike Ho's hardened heart. Although he had contributed absolutely nothing to the rebuilding, he had profited immensely from the sweat and sacrifice of everyone else. For the first time in his life, he wondered if there were forms of spiritual wealth that could never be recorded inside an accounting book. Lam, however, paid no attention to such worldly realizations. His greatest satisfaction came each evening when he sat outside his modest hut with his wife, sharing a cup of hot tea while listening to the pure, untainted laughter of children running through the village paths. Those ordinary moments, free from desire, felt richer than all the treasures of the world. One morning in the following spring, as Lam organized freshly cut firewood, he noticed a young boy standing nervously outside his gate, named Min, whose clothes were faded and shoes badly worn. The boy asked for work, to buy school books, or even just a meal. Lam looked carefully into the child's eyes and welcomed him in. That evening, the three of them remained seated around the small wooden table long after dinner had ended, as the oil lamp flickered gently against the bamboo walls. Min confessed his deepest fear. "I'm afraid that when I leave this village for the city, I will become someone different and forget everything I've learned here." Lam poured another cup of tea and replied softly, "Kindness isn't a lesson you memorize with the brain. It is a path you walk with your feet, repeated until it becomes your very nature." Those words stayed with Min long after he boarded the bus the following morning. For Lam, life returned to its familiar rhythm. The mountains still greeted him before sunrise, and the narrow trails wound quietly through the pine trees, just as they had for decades. He no longer counted the years by calendars, but through the changing seasons and the children he watched grow into adults. As his hair turned completely white and his physical strength faded, the villagers began noticing the change and, without anyone asking, quietly started helping him in return. One neighbor repaired his leaking roof. Another left fresh vegetables outside his door. Young men returning from the forest carried his firewood home before delivering their own. No one kept score, and there was no expectation of repayment. Helping Lam had simply become as natural as breathing, a beautiful continuation of the seeds of kindness he had sown for decades. One autumn afternoon, a luxury vehicle stopped in front of Lam's wooden gate, and a well-dressed woman stepped out, holding a faded old winter scarf. "I've kept this for almost 30 years, she said softly. "I am the granddaughter of the old woman you rescued in the snowstorm." She explained that her grandmother had lived a long, happy life, never stopping talking about the man who saved her, which inspired her to found a charitable organization that now provided scholarships and medical aid to thousands of children in remote villages. Lam listened quietly, finding it hard to believe one small decision made during a storm had echoed so far across time. The woman smiled gently and said, "My grandmother used to say, 'A single candle never knows how many others will be lit from its flame. No kindness can truly be repaid. We can only pass it forward." As winter arrived once more and snow covered the forest trails, Lam's health weakened noticeably. One cold evening, his small house filled with familiar faces, Daniel the village teacher, Ethan a businessman whose life Lam had changed, Min, and many neighbors. A young girl named Emma whispered her fear of making the wrong choices in life. Lam smiled kindly, his voice like a gentle breeze. Everyone makes mistakes. The important thing is making sure compassion remains the compass of your decisions. Late that night, with the very same profound peace that had marked his entire existence, Lam quietly took his final breath, returning his physical form back to the elements. Decades later, university students arrived to study the unique culture of what the world now called the Village of Quiet Kindness. Their research paper concluded that communities become compassionate only when compassion is consistently lived and visible in daily life. One of those students returned years later with his own son standing by the old bridge, explaining how goodness survives from one generation to the next. The first candle doesn't lose its light by sharing it. It simply makes the darkness of the world a little smaller. A meaningful life is rarely built through a single, grand, unforgettable moment. It is built through thousands of quiet, mindful choices made when no one is keeping score, repeated faithfully until kindness ceases to be an effort and becomes our true, untainted nature.